This is Dan Dix here, reporting for Press for Truth, and as viewers of this channel will know, we here at Press for Truth are very interested in tangible assets that protect yourself as a hedge against the incoming inevitable dollar crash. And in my opinion, owning precious metals, in particular gold, is one of the best ways you can go. But what is that sector like for the miners themselves? And in today's climate, is this still a good hedge moving forward to protect yourself and your family? Well, joining me on the line today to help me understand this space is Warwick Smith. He's the CEO of American Pacific. They're a gold exploration company. AmericanPacific.ca is the website. Warwick, thanks so much for joining us today. I want to get your views on the future of this space, where you see this going, and how you think families can protect themselves moving forward. But before we get into that,
Great.
I'm curious about some of your thoughts on mining stocks in general. And I want to get your ideas on, what you think is going to be the key for them to rally again. I mean, we haven't seen a rally in maybe 10 years, except for maybe back in 2016. But in your opinion, what's the psychological number that people need to hear in order to get excited about this space again?
Yeah, I mean, listen, first off, thanks very much for having me on the show. I love the channel, and I'm excited to be on here. So thank you for that. Yeah, it's been a while. We're due for a run, but what I can certainly say, before I sort of get to the number, and this year, 2019, starting in January, feels a world better than 2018 did. We are on what feels like the precipice of a new trend and real uptrend for gold. And good Lord, we've been waiting for one for a while. So I'm happy about that. Look, I'm no chartist, but from everything I've read, I think that 1375 to 1400 number, that's where the breakout is. And I think when you break that, that's the real precipice change at this point. From there, that's why I think you see gold just accelerate and push forward dramatically. So,
absolutely.
We're all excited for that. There's no question.
If I saw that number, I would certainly be getting excited about that. I mean, I recall even, back in 2000, 2001, there was a time when it was so cheap. I remember it was actually cheaper than cannabis back then. You could buy an ounce of gold for $200 back then.
Yeah.
And oil was going around $10 at the time. And I remember at the time thinking, my God, if I had money to invest, I would. But that was then, this is now. But since then, gold has had an amazing run since then. It, went up for 11 consecutive years. Oil rose to around $150 a barrel. So I'm wondering, is there a clear correlation between the price of oil and how that might set gold prices and silver prices?
Yeah, look, I think that's been true in the past. I mean, I think it's less true in, let's call it, the past 10 years. It's one of those things that I think was a little bit like largely manufactured and assumed by commodities traders. The link, oil is a supply and demand commodity, right? Much in the way that copper is. Gold is not a supply and demand commodity. It's a store of wealth. It's real money. It's your safe haven per se, right? And it's that hedge against inflation. So I see both commodities rising. I just don't necessarily see them in a direct correlation to each other.
Right. Well, a lot of people do see what goes into extracting oil and things of that nature, but they have no clue what goes into actually getting gold out of the ground. So
yes,
what would you say are how much energy, I should put it, is needed in order to extract gold from the ground?
Yeah, you ask great questions, Dan. It's a lot. is sort of the short answer. Mining is energy intensive, and not just gold mining. Any sort of mining. But it's sort of a difficult question to answer because as you go through different phases from mineral exploration to production, it all sort of shifts, right? Mm-hmm. So like first, if you look when you're an explorer, you're requiring a lot of heavy equipment at that stage, and the part of that stage is that when you're investing in junior companies and you're doing you're exploring and you're on the exploration side of it, there's sort of a 98% failure rate in those assets, right? So when subscribers of your show are looking for those companies, look for the ones that have a partner with a major or a mid-tier company, because they've done the due diligence for you at that point, right? They have the guy, they've got a team of experts in terms of geologists and mining engineers. And if they're sinking their hard-earned capital into a junior company, you're probably onto something there. But if I go back to your question, if you take a hypothetical cost of, let's say, $1,000 an ounce, 50% of that is going to be energy costs, if you can believe it. Sort of 20% of it's going to be, sort of administration and executive overhead. 20% is going to be sort of actual on the ground staff and, personal expenses towards the mine. And then 10% of that's going to be environmental, social, those types of things. But your other 50, maybe as low as 40% is going to go towards energy. You're looking at electrical, diesel, gas, oil. That's 50% of your cost. So it's energy intensive for sure.
Wow, that's more than I knew, but I'm sure people kind of be surprised to hear that as well. But I know most people who watch this are similar to me in the sense that they look at it as a way to protect themselves for what they see coming in the United States and what they see with the dollar. So maybe we can get a little bit into that. I've seen stats recently that are suggesting that the central banks are some of the biggest purchasers of gold right now. So that kind of makes me wonder, is there currently, is this slowdown and a lack of trust between China and the U.S. causing governments now to want to hedge themselves as well?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think so. I mean, I think the whole world would probably like to de-dollarize. It's been a stranglehold on a lot of the economies for a very, very long time. But here's the thing: when you buy an ounce of gold, you buy it in U.S. dollars, and that's no different between a barrel of oil or pork bellies or a pound of copper or whatever. I mean, it's all based in U.S. dollars. So the question is, what do you replace it with? Are you gonna replace it with Bitcoin? Are you gonna replace it with euros or the Australian dollar? I think the likely answer is none of the above. So I mean, it's a cumbersome process and not something that I can see happening in the short to medium term. The only currency that would trump them all would really be gold or silver. But I don't see that happening soon. If and when it does happen, gold goes through the roof and literally never comes back. I mean, that would be the parabolic move, right?
Well, that's certainly something I've been anticipating, and I know is going to be happening. And I'm wondering if the American people are feeling this as well. Do you sense that there is a loss of confidence in the dollar around the world, and is that going to cause massive inflation moving forward?
My take is it's absolutely inevitable. I mean, you can't continually limit organic growth by constantly manipulating interest rates. I mean, it's just to slow up inflation. I mean, sometimes you just have to let these things run, right? I mean, we're entering, in my estimation, another equity and banking mess similar to 2008, where people have a subprime loan on something that they own, and when that unwinds, it's going to be another nasty crash, right? So I mean, Trump and the Feds, and they don't want inflation to halt growth, but the reality is growth and inflation go hand in hand, and I think that plays out in the next 3 years. Ultimately, it's all good for gold. Look, I'll say this is you can print all the dollars you want. Like, the one thing you can't print is like that gold. That's your real store of wealth right there, right? You can't print that.
Yeah, absolutely, man. That's really what it comes down to. And, that's why I think it's great that you guys are such, forward thinking about this. So, especially now, I mean, now is the time to be getting involved into this sector. So tell us a little bit about American Pacific itself. What sort of projects do you guys have going on? How did this all start? Why'd you launch it? Tell us a little bit about your company.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love to. I've known my business partner is a gentleman named Eric Saderholm, and I've known Eric for a long time. We worked previously together. He was the head of exploration in the Western U.S. for Newmont. So he held a very high-powered position over there and was reviewing all the assets and was picking and choosing which assets Newmont should buy. So was lucky enough to get him to leave Newmont and come and partner up with me. And we picked up a project called Tuscarora, which is in Nevada. Incredibly high-grade epithermal system. I won't get too deep down the geologic road, but a really, really exciting asset that we're thrilled about. This all happened March of 2018, so I've been around for just over a year. And then we just brought in Oceana Gold as our joint venture partner. So they're putting up $10 million US to earn into 75% of the project. Now they've got a time frame to work that through, but we're thrilled to bring them in. They're a fantastic partner. It's a $3 billion company. They're in production on 3 continents. They're the type of guys you want to be working with. So we're very excited. We're a small company. We've got about a $15 million Canadian market cap. So, we're excited to get going. And now it's about driving forward.
That's amazing for such a new company. Are you holding any debt at this time?
No, we don't hold any debt. Yeah, we're pretty well cashed up. Look, we're small, so we don't burn a lot of money. Our burn rate is well under $100,000 a month. So we just finished a financing. We've got about 2 years worth of cash, and we've got warrants that are in the money that would take us up to about another 3 years. So we're in a very good spot, and we're really excited about the future ahead. We love that project. That Tuscarora project is, it was a coup for us to get it. And credit to Eric and the rest of the team for being able to get that. And now it's a matter of adding to the portfolio and working with Oceana to push ahead.
Well, in terms of that, I guess, Nevada is huge. That's awesome. Congratulations on that.
Thank you.
What would you say, do you think you want to see as the next major catalysts for the company moving forward? Like, what are you projecting in the coming months or even years for the company?
Yeah, listen, I think it's a great question. We're very excited for calendar 2019. We've been in a little bit of a quiet period as we're closing this transaction with Oceana. I think it's $2.5-3 billion company. They're much larger than we are, so it takes a while to negotiate these things and get both sides happy. So now that that's done, it's back to the job of exploration. So we'll get out there. We're going to do what's called a CSAMT survey, which basically lets you see through the ground to get a feeling for where some of the veins are. That's going to guide drilling, and we'll be out drilling this year. We'll do a lot of drilling. We've got our eyes on some other projects that we want to pick up that we're very excited about. Again, in the western U.S., some in Nevada, some in the outlying states. So there'll be a lot of news flow this year, and we're excited. It's a great time for gold companies. For the ones that are cashed up and that have partners and are in a good position. When you feel like you're on that precipice of change and you feel like the market's coming to you, that's an exciting place to be. Yeah,
it's an exciting place. It's an exciting time. I mean, especially with what we see going around the world. I guess in closing, I mean, we touched on the crash of the dollar. I think you're of the opinion it's going to happen, but it may not happen overnight. It may be more gradual. How do you foresee that playing out? I mean, you don't have a crystal ball, obviously. It's hard to predict the future. But people who are involved in gold kind of have an inkling as to what's coming. So what do you feel is coming down the road in that regard?
Look, I mean, I'd love to own the crystal ball because it would make my life so much easier to gaze into it and say, I think this is how it all unfolds. But look, the other issue I always have talking on this topic is yes, I'm a Canadian. I live up in Vancouver, but my partners live down in the U.S. Our assets are down in the U.S. It's our sister country, and it's a place that I have a lot of love for sure. So you don't want to predict someone's demise. I think the way that they've printed money is going to end up biting them. And when it happens and how it happens, I'll leave that to somebody a bit smarter than me. But quite frankly, for my portfolio, for my family's portfolio, for my friend's portfolio, I want everybody to own some gold. And for that matter, if you can own what you think are good mining companies that have the opportunity to succeed, that's really where you get your leverage on these things. And, I think Nevada is a great place to be. We've seen a bunch of takeovers there just this year. We saw Hecla take over Klondex, Alio take over Rye Patch, Corp take over. Their name will lose me now. But we've seen a bunch of big takeovers there. Yeah. And I just think the dollar's on a bad pathway. And I think gold, you're starting to see it this year, is on the right path. And, I'm excited to take part in that with American Pacific.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, I think a lot of people are seeing this. They're looking into all sorts of things, the real estate market, the
Mhm.
cryptocurrency space, a lot of these
Yeah,
things. But in my opinion, precious metals, in particular gold, is one of the must go to have assets in your portfolio. So I would
yeah.
strongly encourage. Yeah,
I'll just chime in on that on the crypto side if I can, just
yeah.
very quickly. Yeah, I mean, I'm a gold guy, so grain of salt. But myself and my partners here, played around in the cryptocurrency space as well, especially when it was when Bitcoin was having a big run. We
Hmm.
played some of the altcoins and what have you, and it was interesting. But the challenge that we found is it's complicated.
Yeah.
Just being able to buy it and sell it and then turn it back into cash was, you know, that was the real challenge for us.
That was interesting learning process for me
Yeah,
too. The
yeah.
entire process is interesting. But as you were learning that process in that space, and as a gold guy, did you ever start to notice any similarities between gold and Bitcoin? I mean, some say they're a store of value. Some say the fact
Uh-huh.
that you can only mine 21 million Bitcoins kind of makes it very similar to gold in that way. Do you think they compare with one another?
Look, I think that's a fair comment. I mean, I think there probably is a bit. I think the fear that people have, and I think an older generation is going to have is, I held up the piece of gold before, right? Like you can hold that, you can feel that, it's on your ring, it's on your watch. You kind of have a much better feel for what is a tangible asset, whereas Bitcoin is something that flies through your computer and you can transact and turn it into cash. Okay, that's great, but yeah, I mean, maybe I'm getting old at this point in my life. Maybe that's what it is. I like cryptos. Trading it was interesting, but to me, I mean, I much prefer the gold space. Perhaps it's because I just know it a bit better.
Yeah, I'm similar. I'm in the same boat. You don't want to put all your eggs in one basket. You gotta
Yeah,
you gotta diversify that portfolio. And for me,
100%.
precious metals is number one. Dabbling in the crypto space, sure, if you can afford to do so,
Hmm.
that's a good hedge as well.
Yeah,
But fundamentally, ultimately, being able to hold something physically in your hands, as you
yeah,
said,
yeah,
is a huge plus moving forward. Because let's face it, they could just flip the switch and
yeah.
goodbye to your money. But you can always go
Well,
dig up your gold out of your backyard, right?
yeah, no question. I mean, we saw that with Quadriga as well. I mean, the founder passes away and the codes are gone, and now all these people have lost their cryptos. Yeah, that was my concern. I mean, again, I'm a gold guy through and through. So I'm coming from a biased standpoint with that. But yeah, look, owning physical gold and silver, I think, is a good thing. Finding the good stocks, that's really where you get your leverage. We've had some great successes. Through it, myself and Eric have had some great successes, and made money for ourselves, but most importantly, the shareholders out there. And we're certainly looking to do that again. And I think we've got a great opportunity to do that.
Well, it's just as being in the crypto space requires a great deal of due diligence. You have to understand the space. The gold space is just the same. You have to
Yeah.
understand what you're getting into, and you
Hmm.
guys have laid down the groundwork. You guys have already set it up. You've got a great company that's already has a proven track record over such a small time. So that's
Hmm.
impressive. So why don't you leave people with the links or anywhere else where they may be able to reach you if they want to follow you guys for any more information or where they can find you guys.
Yeah, no question. So, first off, I'll give you the stock symbols. It's listed on the Canadian Stock Exchange. The symbol's USGD, and then we're listed down in the US, which is USGDF. AmericanPacific.ca is the website, and there's a contact email and there's a contact phone number on there that you can get a hold of us anytime. And we're always happy to talk to shareholders, people who are interested. That's a big part of our job. Investor relations is everybody's job in our company, because it's the investors that keep it moving forward, and of which we're a large one. So we're keen to push it forward and do well for everybody involved.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, I'm going to have all the links located in the description below. I strongly want to encourage everyone to check it out at home. Also, check out wealthresearch.com/USGD. This is a very comprehensive breakdown of how this company works and how you can actually get involved if you're interested. So once again, Warwick Smith, thank you so much for joining us here today on Press for Truth.
Thanks very much for having me. Really appreciate it.
We all want truth. The truth will set you free, free, free.